Hey everybody, I'm here in our youth room. You know, it dawned on me that a whole lot of you come to Crosswalk and you sit in the sanctuary and you have no idea how amazing our campus is. So right now, if you've never taken a tour of the church, if you look out the big windows to your left, I don't know which way that's going to look like on screen, but the big windows in the sanctuary and look across the courtyard, you're going to see a whole lot more building. And actually, our campus is very large, especially for the size of our church. And I am standing in our youth lounge, which is an amazing space for our youth to hang out. They have a Sunday breakout. Right across the hall from here, there's sort of a rec room area with lots of games for our youth to play. And it's a very, very cool space. So sometime you should just walk the road down here and check it out, because it's pretty amazing. So anyway, I'm in Africa, or on my way back from Africa when you finally see this, and I wanted to continue this teaching series on spiritual like Jesus. Next week when you come, I'm going to be there live, but I'm going to share with you what I learned from the leaders of Faraha. Now these guys, they live in extreme poverty. They're leading a school of orphans in extreme poverty. It's an impressive environment. It's not a safe place, and yet I know that their faith is incredibly vibrant, and that blows my mind. How can you have that kind of a vibrant faith when things aren't that great in terms of your living condition? So I'm going to bring some of that stuff with you next week, and then the week after that, our whole team will be sharing about what we saw over there. And, you know, Jesus spent a lot of time among the poor, and it enriched his heart. It was who he was about. It was who he was also. And I think you're going to be enriched by it. So next week, come back here for me about the spirituality of leaders who are in an incredibly poor, challenging environment. And the next week, come back to hear from our team about what we experienced, because it's going to be pretty awesome. So anyway, this week I want to talk about an aspect of Jesus' spirituality, which all of us know about, and we all know we're supposed to do, but we don't do a real good job of it. And that is to just stop. The reality is, that every one of us has a very full life. Even if we don't think we do, we find ourselves busy a lot. And even if we think we don't have anything on our calendar, I bet that there's a lot of time that is spent doing idle stuff that really isn't doing much for you, and it's not helping the world or anything else. It's watching TV, it's I don't know what. But anyway, I wanted to take a look at Jesus and see a practice that he did very regularly. We'll get back to that in a minute. So when I was a kid, probably from 3rd grade till about 7th grade, we lived in Ottawa, Kansas, and my dad was the president of the university there. And one of the great benefits of being his son when he was the president of the university is we got to live in the president's house, which was in this real fancy schmancy part of town, this big sprawling ranch home. It was enormous. We couldn't fill it. But the coolest thing for me was the property that it was on, because it was a very large piece of property, probably like the equivalent of a football field or bigger in front, same thing in the back, had its own little private wooded area, and the neighbor had a pond I could go fishing. Well, I figured out pretty early on that I loved being outside. I was one of those kids that did backyard camping, and I loved it. Most of the time in the summer, you could find me in that pond fishing, or you could find me, I made a fort in this massive evergreen bush that was so cool, and I just love being outside, and that is stuck in me. Then we moved to Michigan. My folks got this place in northern Michigan, right on the bay of Grand Traverse Bay, one of the bays of Lake Michigan. And it's white sand beach, it's pristine, it's beautiful, and I spent every summer there through high school. And a little bit in college. Very special place to me. It's like I find God there when I'm out walking those shores. And I would do that every night. Just me and God taking a walk along the shores of Lake Michigan. Just fabulous. So when I got the opportunity to consider coming out here and being a pastor, it took me like 2 seconds to figure out that might be a good idea. Because California is just one of these ridiculously amazing places where you have so much at your fingertips. Lynn and I, just think back to this one particular weekend a few years ago grandparents were in town to watch our kids. They were much younger. And on one day, Lynn and I went up and skied at Heavenly. And on the next day, we took the family to the beach. I mean, where else can you do that? I mean, that is just crazy. And that's what California is all about. It's just this incredible beauty that we have. Well, okay. A lot of us wish we could get out there, see it more, and we just tell ourselves, well, I just don't have time. I'm too busy doing whatever I'm doing. There was a particular day when Jesus was very busy. And this comes out, and I think it's Luke chapter 5. And if you read what happens there, Jesus finds this guy, actually a guy finds him who has leprosy. And the guy with leprosy goes up to Jesus, which was against the rules for him, and he asks to be healed, which was kind of a crazy thing to do. If you're going to be healed, you're going to go to the priest, or you're going to go to the temple at Jerusalem. But he'd heard about Jesus. So Jesus hears this guy, asks him, what do you want? And he says, I want to be healed. He says, do you think I can? And the guy with leprosy said, I think if you want to heal me, it'll happen. And Jesus reached out and touched him, which was, again, just crazy that he did this. And the leprosy went away. He says, I am willing to heal you. And then he tells the guy, don't tell anybody. He didn't want huge crowds at this point. He wanted to control things a little bit better. But he did say, go back to the priest and present yourselves and take the offering you're supposed to offer once you're healed and show them. This actually is a little bit of a subversive move on Jesus' part, because he's telling them to go back and tell the guys who are supposed to be delivering the healing and supposed to be the receptacle of God, and they're going to find out real quick that they're not, that God's doing something else somewhere else through Jesus. And that's going to probably ruffle some feathers. So anyway, kind of an interesting little plot twist there in that exchange. Well, the guy can't keep his mouth shut. I mean, could you keep your mouth shut? If you've been sequestered because of your illness for so long, shunned from your society, can't even see your own family anymore, then all of a sudden you're healed, it's like you got your life back. You're going to go see everybody you can. They're going to recognize you. You're going to wonder what happened. And you're going to tell them, well, I met this Jesus and blah, blah, blah. You're going to tell the whole story. And all of a sudden, everybody's hearing about Jesus. And so they all make their way to where Jesus was. And for a day straight, or we don't know exactly how long, but Jesus was inundated with all these people that wanted to hear him, wanted to be healed by him, wanted to see his show, the whole thing. And then an interesting verse pops up in Luke chapter 5, 16. It says, but he often departed, went by himself into the wilderness to pray. So, we're talking about Jesus, the anointed one of God, the one who is so empowered by the Spirit and presence of God that he's able to heal leprosy, raise the dead, make food enough for a mega church. I mean, this guy's got it all going on. God is clearly with this guy, and yet Jesus knew enough that he needed to go by himself, get away, and restore himself. And I wonder how well we do that. And I wonder if sometimes we just tell ourselves we're just too gosh darn busy to get away and do something that we need to do. But we know we need to, don't we? So I'm actually taping this a few days before I head out for Africa. And I know something is going to happen when I get on that plane. When I'm on that plane, getting my seat belted, and I think I've got 3 flights to get me to Africa, to New York, to Zurich, and then finally to Nairobi. I know that we're going to be instructed to put on our seatbelts a particular way. They're going to tell us that, we may be going over water, and so your seat's a life vest. And then the one I love the most is we may have a sudden drop in cabin pressure, and at that point, masks are going to fall from the ceiling. And then they give you special instructions, particularly if you brought your kids, little kids. You know what I'm talking about? What they say is, parents, you take a hit of the oxygen first, and then you give some to your kid. And that seems real counterintuitive for a parent, because as a parent who loves his kids, my first thought is, I want to make sure my kid's okay. But they're actually right, aren't they? That if you don't take care of yourself first, how can you take care of those around you? If you can't be who you are, alive and well, then you can't be very alive and well for anybody else. And I think Jesus knew that. Even though he had all this anointing of God on him, all this stuff happening, he knew he needed to get away. So the reality is, I know that I could stand up here and eloquently tell you that you need to take time out of your schedule. You just need to stop whatever you're doing and make it outside. Just spend some quiet time just to reflect and to be silent and still and to appreciate all that God is doing all around you. I'm not talking about taking your Bible and doing some devotional reading somewhere, some other devotional book. I'm talking about just stopping and being still. And just being present to what God might be doing around you, to appreciate the beauty of God's creation. But I know that I could say that really eloquently, and there's going to be some of you that said, that is a great idea, Pastor Pete. And as soon as I can find the time to do that, I'm going to do just that. So I decided to force my hand here, or force your hand. You're a captive audience right now. You'd be too embarrassed to get up and walk out of here after I say something. So I know that you're already here. And I know that you're listening to me. And I know that you usually count on me preaching for like 30 minutes. And so instead of me preaching for 30 minutes, I thought I would take you on a hike so that you can stop and you can start to see maybe what you've been missing. So this hike I'm going to take you on, I had this idea about a week ago or so. And I just thought, I'm going to take my phone with me and I'm going to take this walk that I take regularly here if I need to get a break or stretch my legs. And I just cut around the side of the church and go into this neighborhood kind of up by Lincoln and do a loop and come on back. It's maybe a mile, something like that. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll get 4 or 5 pictures that are worth talking about and go from there. Well, I was floored. When I went with intentionality, saying to myself, I want to see what is before me in God's creation, I found a lot of stuff. So relax, sit back, breathe deep, because you are getting a break right now. You're going to see what I saw on my walk, and it's beautiful. And you're also going to hear some beautiful music, a song called Sanctuary by a guy named Frank Tilecki, which is a beautiful song. So just relax. You can thank me when I get back for giving you this respite from your busy life. And I hope that you appreciate the beauty that you see. And I hope that you recognize the detail of the beauty. And I hope more than anything that like Jesus, you get restored because you decided to stop and see, literally smell the roses, or at least see them, and reflect on just how beautiful the creation is that you live in, how good God is, that God would be able to create such beauty, and that you are a part of that creation, and you are connected to that creation. So may you find rest as you rest in this walk.